today for our 90-minute landmark cruise. We'll go by the Statue of Liberty on both sides of the boat. We are on a boat, so I do have a safety announcement. In case of an emergency, your number one job is to listen. We do not know what the emergency could be, so we'll just need you to listen for further instructions. Most likely the instructions would be to remain calm, remain seated, and keep the aisles clear. But again, we do not know what the emergency could be, so we'll just need you to listen and follow directions. In the unlikely event that we need to don life preservers, myself and the crew can help distribute them. The life preservers are underneath the staircases and in the silver boxes around the cabins. There's no smoking or vaping anywhere aboard the vessel, and the chairs need to remain where they are. They are in Coast Guard regulation formation order, so for safety reasons, just leave the chairs. They're in a great spot. There's also no standing on the chairs. You don't look like a group that would stand on the chairs, but you never know. It's not that I don't believe in your strength or agility. It's that we're on a boat. One wave, we go sideways. You know, we just can't have anyone standing on the chairs in that moment. And that's our safety announcement. As a quick review for the safety announcement, in case of an emergency, your number one job is to listen. Excellent. Very good. Off to the left is the gray aircraft carrier called the Intrepid, which is now the Museum of Air, Space, and Sea Travel. There is a space shuttle prototype and an original Concorde airplane that is part of the museum. New York City is made up of 5 boroughs: Manhattan, Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. 5 places that are all big enough to be their own cities, but they all come together to be New York City, mostly for financial reasons. If you hear someone say, I'm going to the city today, they mean the island of Manhattan. They don't mean the other 4 boroughs. The city is just Manhattan, and mostly Midtown. The captain's gonna blow the horn, so if you're sensitive to noise, know that that's coming. Off to the left, up the Hudson River, is the George Washington Bridge, the only bridge that connects New Jersey with Manhattan. And as a result, it is the busiest bridge in the world. Every day, over 500,000 vehicles go over that bridge using 14 lanes of traffic. Off to the left between us and the George Washington Bridge is where Sully landed his plane. In 2009, there was an emergency water landing of a U.S. Airways passenger plane here on the Hudson. All of the passengers and crew survived the emergency water landing. People crawled out onto the wings. Some people tried to swim for it. It was January. Choices were made. The Circle Line was right here, and we were third on the scene to rescue some folks. They had everyone off the plane within 20 minutes. And then months later, people's waterlogged luggage was returned to them. I don't know what you do with waterlogged luggage. I think it's a matter of we can't throw it away, but you can. Thank you for choosing U.S. Airways. Please fly with us again soon. Off to the right side of the boat, we can see the Empire State Building, the square building with the silver rocket ship on top. It's going to come in and out of view, and we'll have a couple other opportunities to view it. The Empire State Building was completed in 1931 during the Great Depression, ahead of schedule and under budget. It's been featured in hundreds of films. It was the tallest building in the world for almost 50 years. Off to the right, there's some thin apartment buildings, pencil buildings. We call them Billionaires Row. It's 57th Street. The one that gets narrower at the top is the Steinway Tower, named for the Steinway & Sons piano showroom on the first floor. And off to the right, the silver triangular apartment building is the Via, also on Billionaires Row. We're making a little U-turn. Off to the left down the island in Manhattan is the Freedom Tower with the big needle on top, the tallest building in New York City, 1,776 feet tall, or 1776 for the year of the United States' independence. In order to achieve that height, they put a 400-foot spire on the top of the building, which I think is cheating if you're going for tallest building, but nobody asked me. There's a restaurant and observation deck on the top floors of the Freedom Tower. Off to the left in the middle of the Hudson River, they're doing some construction. They're building an additional train tunnel connecting New Jersey with Manhattan. The current train tunnel needs some repairs. They'll reroute the trains, repair the old train tunnel, and both of the tunnels should be open by the end of 2038. I would put money on 2045. Off to the right side of the boat now is the great state of New Jersey, part of the continental U.S. This is Weehawken. And down on the waterfront is where the famous duel between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr took place. Spoiler alert, 200 years later, both guys are dead. Manhattan's now on the left, and we got a sculpture coming up of interlocking staircases by the artist Thomas Heatherwick. Heatherwick didn't want to name the structure. He thought it'd be fun if the public named the structure. And the public submitted ideas like The Hive, Stary McStairface, and King Kong's Jungle Gym. And after those submissions, it was concluded that the public cannot be trusted with such a task, and so it remains named TBD the Vessel, to be decided the vessel. You can still climb up to the top of the vessel for a small fee. In front of the vessel, behind the trees, is the High Line, an old elevated freight railroad line that's been turned into public park. There's some great landscaping and street art on the High Line. It starts up here at the buildings around the vessel called Hudson Yards and heads down to the Chelsea neighborhood along 11th Avenue, which is an avenue back from the waterfront. A moment when the Empire State Building lines up with the vessel. If you want to grab that photo, it's coming. And the bows are open at the front of the boat. If anyone wants to head out front and do your king of the world thing, you're welcome to. Just watch your fingers in the doors as they can slam in the wind. Sticking out of the side of 30 Hudson Yards. That is the Edge observation deck with the glass bottom floor so you can see all the way down to the streets of Manhattan, which sounds terrifying to me. So I'll stay here on the boat. But if you love a thrill for an additional fee, they will tie you up and let you just lean off the side of that building. I'm gonna stay here. Off to the left, the Empire State Building's back in view. It just went under a renovation so that the space would remain relevant and competitive with the new modern office building, which now has a LEED Platinum certification, which is the highest sustainability rating you can get for a building, which is pretty cool. The Empire will celebrate its 100th birthday in 2031. Next up on the left on the waterfront, there's some blue buildings with red and white stripes, which is Chelsea Piers, our famous sporting facility. It's also where Law and Order is filmed. On the left a little closer, there's a building with a gold pyramid on top that comes in and out of view. That's the New York life insurance building. Insurance is our fourth largest industry in New York after real estate, high tech, and finance. We like to show off our wealth with gold leaf when we can. Coming up, there's some green netting on the green netting on the left, that's it's protecting us all from flying golf balls. It's also protecting my yacht. I'll let you guess which one is mine. It's our golf driving range that is part of the Chelsea Pier Sporting Facility. And behind the green netting is an apartment building that looks like it's leaning. If you look at the top floors, the apartments are perfectly normal, but it is an impressive building. On the right, we're now alongside Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken is the home of Frank Sinatra and the first ever played baseball game. Hoboken is 1 square mile, and for being 1 square mile, it has the most bars and churches of any square mile in the United States. So there's a lot of drinking and a lot of praying going on in Hoboken. On the left coming up is Little Island, this park being held up by these white tulip shapes or golf tees. Little Island is free to visit, and it's designed by the same artist that did the vessel, Thomas Heatherwick. You might recognize his undulating lines, the shape of the structure going up and down. Back behind Little Island is the High Line, and if you're in the neighborhood, Chelsea Market is here, our famous food hall, where the Oreo cookie originated. So on the left, Little Island Park. The island of Manhattan has 1.8 million people living on the island, but on any given day, people are coming to the city for work, for school, doctor's appointments, shopping, tourism, just hanging out with friends, and we call that the dynamic population. And on a Wednesday afternoon, it's at its peak. There may be as many as 4 million people on the island of Manhattan. They're coming all kinds of ways. We have bridges and tunnels, the New York subway, and we also have a ferry network. Coming up on the right is a clock tower on the Erie-Lackawanna train station and ferry depot. New York City is an archipelago, lots of islands, so the ferry is a great way to commute, and a boat tour is a great way to see New York City. What does the river have to say? Yeah. I think the river says, clean me up, please, please, clean me up. Say we're working on it, river. We got a couple projects to clean up New York Harbor. So on the right, the white face is water, soul. Coming up on the left is an apartment building that looks like a game of Jenga, and we do call it the Jenga building. Side of the boat jutting out into the Hudson River are these brown towers, which are the ventilation towers for the Holland Tunnel, which runs underneath the riverbed here, connecting motor vehicles between New Jersey and Manhattan. On the left, there's a building with a green pyramid on top and some Gothic towers. That's the Woolworth building by Cass Gilbert. And to the left of it is a silver apartment building by the architect Frank Gehry. It looks like it has some waves going up the side of it. The island of Manhattan was originally called Mannahatta and had a number of Native American communities living on the island. The Dutch arrived in the 1620s and tried to buy the island from the Lenni Lenape, one of the communities on the island. The Lenni Lenape did not conceptualize land ownership. We are nature, the land's nature, we all go back to being dirt and dust in the end. How could you possibly own each other? We're made out of the same stuff. But despite the miscommunication, the Dutch were here for 40 years, calling the island New Amsterdam. And then they traded it to the British in 1664. The British renamed it New York. The British lost it all in the American Revolution. The Americans kept the name New York and erased everything else British. We even stopped drinking tea. Too British. We started drinking coffee instead. We're real bitter. On the right side of the boat, we're coming alongside Jersey City, New Jersey, which is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. 40 years ago, it was mostly shipping and industrial buildings, and now there's so many skyscrapers on the right, people often confuse Jersey City for Manhattan. On the left, we're alongside the Tribeca neighborhood, which is named for the shape of the neighborhood, a triangle below Canal Street, Tribeca. We have some other silly names for neighborhoods like Financial District, Phi-Di, and Soho, south of Houston Street. And we do call it Houston. I'm so sorry, Texas. I know you call it Houston, but I grew up in a house, not a Hughes. You can agree to disagree. So on the left, we're coming alongside the Financial District where the buildings get taller, Phi-Di, and the Freedom Tower, the big needle on top. This lower end of Manhattan is where the Dutch had their New Amsterdam colony, and the city grew, the population grew north. This was the port where all the ships were coming in with supplies, and then people slowly started to develop and farm up north. On the northern end of the Dutch territory, they built a fence out of wood, and that is where Wall Street is today. I don't know how you get from Fence Street to Wall Street. It seems a bit of a leap. On the left, there's a white tent on the waterfront, which is a ferry terminal, and just around the corner is a glassed arch structure, which is Brookfield Place, one of our malls. It's right across the street from the 9/11 memorial. And you might be able to see the white wings of the Oculus through the glass arches, which is the transportation hub on the other side of the memorial. So the Twin Towers originally occupied the space to the right of the Freedom Tower, which is now empty. You're welcome to. Just watch your fingers in the door. I just caught a glimpse of the Statue of Liberty. She's wearing green today. We're matching. I love it when we match. She texts me in the morning, she's like, Alexis, do you think we have to wear green again today? I say, I think we must. The people expect it. We cannot let them down. She's like, okay, fine. Green it is again. I do love the Statue of Liberty sense of style. She has some lovely Grecian robes on. We still got about 5-10 minutes until we're right in front of her. You don't have to rush anywhere. But she's going to be coming up in just a little bit. Off to the right is the Colgate clock, where there used to be a toothpaste and soap factory in Jersey City. The factory's long gone, but they left their clock behind. It's now one of the largest freestanding clocks in the world. It's 50 feet in diameter, which means every time the minute hand moves 1 minute, it moves a little over 2.5 feet. And that is how you use pi. Off to the left, there's a building with a green pyramid on top. This was the Manhattan Savings Bank, and it was the tallest building in the world for 24 hours. They had a party on the rooftop celebrating their success, and uptown they saw the spire of the Chrysler Building being raised up into the air, and they were like, oh, so much for that. On the lower end of Manhattan on the left is Battery Park, and this is where the Dutch had their Fort Amsterdam, and that's where they stored all their ammunition, all their firepower. They called the power storage a battery park. So the white building with the little clock is Pier A, one of our oldest piers. We still got a little time before we get to the Statue of Liberty. Oh, off to the right is one of our old train stations. It's now a ferry terminal. The Statue of Liberty is a gift from the people of France to the people of the United States, a symbol of friendship conceptualized in the 1850s when most countries in Europe were at war with each other. So friendship was a significant thing to solidify, even with as strange a gift as a really big statue. We do thank you, France. We love it. The Statue of Liberty is facing east towards France as a reminder of the friendship. When the statue was first completed in 1886, she was the color of a new penny. And the copper that she's made out of, as it's exposed to wind and rain, develops a patina, and that's the green that we see today. Off to the left, in the far distance is Brooklyn, and we got the big black tower towering over the borough. This is the Brooklyn Tower, offices and apartments. New Yorkers hate this building. They say it looks like the Lord of the Rings tower without the eyeball, and it very much does. The Brooklyn Tower has copper stripes in the black steel, so in about 25 years that copper will patina and turn green, just like the Statue of Liberty. So come back in 40 years for the Brooklyn Tower's costume change to green and black stripes. Coming up on the right is Ellis Island, where millions of immigrants went through a 7-second medical exam to see if they had a contagious disease and were able-bodied, and then they went through an interview process. At the end of the 1800s, the United States just lost 1 million able-bodied men to the Civil War. It was entering the Industrial Revolution. So we needed people. And of the 12 million immigrants who came through Ellis Island before 1924, 98% of them were welcomed into the country. About 40% of Americans today can trace their ancestry back to Ellis Island, and they've digitized all their records. So if you want to do any personal research, you can at ellisisland.org. The main building with the 4 towers today is the registry room that now operates as a museum. The Statue of Liberty coming up next. She's made up of she's 301 feet tall, or 94 meters, including the stone pedestal that she's standing on. The stone pedestal was designed by Richard Morris Hunt, an American architect who also did the American Museum of Natural History and the Metropolitan Art Museum's original buildings here in New York City. The green part of the statue was designed by French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. He designed her Liberty Enlightening the World, celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the United States independence and also the recent abolition of slavery. The original design for the statue included chains in her left hand. And having just abolished slavery, the United States is a little sensitive to chains. They said no chains, Bartholdi. The artist dropped the chains and put a keystone in her left arm. The keystone reads July 4th, 1776 in Roman numerals, the date of the United States' independence. There are still chains at her feet. Her right heel is lifted. She's walking into liberty, out of bondage. She's in motion. And she's got the torch in her right hand, lighting the way with gold leaf on the flame so it will not patina and turn green like the rest of the statue. The statue is made up of 300 pieces of hand-hammered copper, put together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, each piece about the thickness of 2 pennies, being held up by a metal structure designed by Gustav Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame. And there's a spiral staircase on the inside that goes all the way up to her crown. They still sell tickets to the crown observation deck, but you have to get them about 2 months in advance because it's cramped up there and they limit the number of people who are allowed up there every day. There's 7 points on her crown with the 7 C's. Off to the left in the far distance, on the far end of New York Harbor, is the Verrazano Bridge, connecting Brooklyn on the left with Staten Island on the right, and that's the way out to the Atlantic Ocean, where all the immigrant ships would have come through, and they would have seen the Statue of Liberty and said, "We made it!" Emma Lazarus, an American author, wrote a poem for the Statue of Liberty called The New Colossus, with the famous lines, "Give me your tired, your poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free," depicting the Statue of Liberty as a welcoming beacon to immigrants to their new home in America. We'll go by the Statue of Liberty on both sides of the boat, and I'll let you all enjoy Liberty Enlightening the World. It might take up to a day because they were very overcrowded there, and they would wait for boats to take people away, so they drop more people off. And once you are invited in. On the right, the Staten Island ferry is coming by. It takes 25 minutes to get from Manhattan to Staten Island, and it is free to ride. On the right, on Governor's Island, there's a round building, which is Captain Williams, a fortification for the War of 1812 to defend New York Harbor against the British. The British did not come up this way, though. They went and burnt down Washington, D.C. instead. Like before GPS. On the left, we're looking up the Hudson River with all the sailboats, where we just came from, and we'll go back up after we go under a couple bridges on the East River, and this lower end of Manhattan, the Freedom Tower with the big needle on top, and Battery Park is the southern end of Manhattan. On the River Line boat, there's a cement tower, which is a ventilation tower for the battery pump. And then Brooklyn, with the blue buildings on the waterfront. Brooklyn was the original bedroom community, and people lived in the day. And eventually the engineer started writing back to his wife, Mrs. Emily Warren Roebling. She became the college director of the Brooklyn branch at the time she completed. Off the left is two ferry terminals. The orange and blue is the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, and the pink and green ferry terminal is for the Governor's Island Ferry Terminal. This pink and green building on the left is my favorite building in Manhattan. I think it's a beautiful example of cast iron work. Above the green archways are some purple glass bricks. They did a restoration of the building in 2020, and when they did, they put a glass commercial space on top for the fancy hotel and an event space called Cipriani's. So maybe one day I'll get to spend the night in my favorite building of the world. It was a game changer for the area. On the left, there's a building with yellow spots, which is a hotel. And to the left of this beige building that gets narrower at the top is Wall Street. And if it comes parallel, you can look down Wall Street and see Trinity Church to the left of the beige building that gets narrower at the top. On the left, on the waterfront, there's some short brick buildings, which is a historic district called South Street Seaport. The tall ship with the three masts is the Waiver Tree, which is now the Seaport Museum. Pier 17 on the left has an event space on the rooftop and is home to ESPN Studio. On the skyline on the left, there's a gold pyramid top building, which is the federal courthouse. The building next door with the gold statue on top is the museum. We have some plushies on the main deck and soda. And I'll be back for the Williamsburg bridge. If you have questions, give me a green shirt. And on the left is the widest point in Manhattan. You can see the island kind of pops out this view in front of the window. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate you. I'll see you as you're getting off the boat. Enjoy New York.